Welcome to episode 57, Build Up or Tear Down, 2 ways people try to get ahead. Welcome to Alive by Design. My name is Blake Mallon, and we're here to bring you inspiring people, principles, and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. Open your mind and let's dive in. Hey guys, before you listen to the podcast, I just want to drop in and say I appreciate you for being here, and I'm super excited about this new Walk With Me series. These are solo episodes where I take some time in the middle of my morning run through the Santa Monica Mountains to share some inspired ideas and thoughts on my mind and heart. If you want to join me for any of these conversations live, you can catch me many mornings on my Facebook page, facebook.com/BlakeMallon.page. Would love to see you there. Love you guys. Enjoy the episode. Walk with me for a few minutes. So as most of you know, I'm all about growth. I'm all for progress. I love moving forward. I think it's a necessary part of us making the most of our potential, us feeling fully alive, us making the most of our time here. So I'm all for advancement. But you knew there was a but coming, didn't you? But I've found, guys, over at least my experience, that there's 2 approaches someone can take when it comes to getting ahead. One approach is by tearing down, and the other, building up. And I want to talk with all of you today about those 2 approaches, tearing down and building up when it comes to our own personal desire or motive to get ahead. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and take a seat because it is a beautiful view today. So go ahead and sit down, have a little chat this morning. When it comes to those two approaches, tearing down and building up. And I know this is a conversation we've all experienced with people in our lives. Maybe this is a conversation we've experienced within our own approach in certain situations or scenarios where we've chose to do one or the other. I'm sure most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, have been on both sides of today's conversation. I want to kind of unpack this a little bit when it comes to this internal desire to get ahead, which is okay, right? I think having a burning desire to move, to advance, to grow, to progress should be a part of what we have. I think that's needed to continue to pursue our own potential. But the 2 approaches, tearing down or building up, I think are very different in the energy behind them, in the effects they have on people around you, and ultimately, I'll say the long-term outcome or attainment of what we're probably looking for. And when I talk about tearing down or building up to get ahead, I think this can actually translate on so many different levels of what we do. I think it can touch our relationships and how we choose to advance our relationships. It can definitely touch, our business or our career or our entrepreneurship endeavors. And to some extent, and I want to touch on this a little bit just because of the climate right now and what's going on in the world right now, I think it touches leadership on all different levels, even to the higher level. So all different aspects of our life. And I think we know what this looks like. I think we know what this feels like just from all of our experience, but I'm going to do my best to maybe articulate it and open up some dialogue when it comes to tearing down and building up. So when I talk about relationships, right, social aspects of our lives, how many of you have ever been around an individual or a conversation that was all about tearing somebody else or others down? Like you're in a dialogue and all it is persistent jabs or knocks or judgment or criticism of somebody else, usually not in the conversation. And how do you feel when that happens? Maybe sometimes kind of like awkward, maybe sometimes not knowing what to say, maybe sometimes trying to change the subject, or maybe sometimes participating equally, right? Making the situation even more dramatic. It's a tear down approach when it comes to relationships, constantly knocking others down or tearing others down in order to try to elevate our own feeling of ourselves or ourselves in that particular situation. Whenever I have those conversations, I don't know about you, I usually have two thoughts that go through my mind. I usually don't say them out loud, but it's the own internal conversation. The first thought whenever someone I hear is being overly judgmental, overly critical of somebody else, only pointing out the negative, I usually just wonder, not from a place of criticism, but from a place of curiosity. I wonder if those individuals are that critical of themselves or hold themselves to that high of a standard. In other words, at the end of the day, we all have to realize, guys, none of us are perfect, right? We all have flaws. We all make mistakes. We all have things that, could be pointed out as weaknesses. We all have things that we could do better. And, the old saying goes, when you cast a stone, right, make sure you're not throwing it in a glass house, meaning that sometimes we got to make sure we're not tearing others down and not even realizing maybe some of our own imperfections that could use improvement. And that's what I mean by relationships or social, trying to make ourselves feel better by putting others at a lower pedestal. Versus building people up, right? When it comes to someone who builds others up, it's the exact different energy, right? When you have conversations that aren't from an approach of tearing down, but building up, those conversations are around the value that others can bring. It's around the maybe positive intent that others have, maybe around the strengths, right, that others, pursue, maybe around the contribution that others can bring, right? Maybe around the quality that they add to the team or your life, right? Such a different energy when it comes to building others up. And quite frankly, in today's world, when it comes to relationships, there's so much of the tear down approach and not enough of the build up approach, in my opinion, when it comes to our relationships or our personal social life. What about business, right? When it comes to business, I'm sure we recognize this all the time. When it comes to advancing one's own career interests or financial interests or economic interests, so often the approach is first lean to tearing down, right? I want to tear down my, competitors. How often do we hear conversations or see attacks where the entire strategy is about knocking the competition, right? Is about picking apart what they have or what they have done, is about trying to point out flaws. So much extent that some of the conversation transitions out of fact or out of reality and into the realm of propaganda, right? Where so much dialogue is exaggerating or extending the truth or sometimes totally fabricating storylines, fake news, so to speak, in order to tear down others in an attempt to move somebody forward. I see this so often in business. I see it so often from, individuals that are competing where they want to throw the stones. They want to tear down in order to try to get ahead. They want to try, right, to, knock what is out there in order to attract attention to what they're trying to build. How many of you guys have seen that in business? Versus the opposite of maybe someone that focuses on building up, someone that focuses on adding value, someone or company organization that focuses on the benefits that they can bring to the world, what they are doing different, what that sets them apart, focuses on the lifting up of something new and the value at the end that can be provided versus the tearing down of something else. Leadership. Guys, in my opinion, the definition of leadership should be individuals who, through their example and through their action, help those around them become better. Isn't that what leadership is? Improving the situation, making us become better than we were, making us go further than we would go, making us be stronger than we are on our own. Isn't that what leadership is really about? then how and when, in any case, should our leadership focus on lifting themselves up by tearing others down? And so often today, everywhere, and you guys were seeing it now more than ever, it's like our leadership spends so much energy on tearing down others as opposed to building up the vision and the value that at the end of the day they should be wanting to bring to the world. So you guys, all of this I know we've seen. How many of you have seen this in your relationships? You've seen this in your business. You've seen this in leadership right around your life. And you can definitely see and feel the two drastically different approaches, one focused on tearing down while the other focused on building up. Now, here's my real question for all of us this morning to think about. Why? What's at the core of each of these approaches? And at the end of the day, what's going to get the best outcome when it comes to moving in the direction we want to go? You guys, I think if we were to, again, get down to the foundation, distill down to the core, peel back the onion, when it comes to tearing down, at the end of the day, it's an energy around destruction. That's what it is. It's an energy all around destruction. If we look at the ego behind it, it's the ego slanting toward a need for greed. Isn't it? Isn't that the reason people tear others down? People tear other things down. People try to tear what others have built down. People try to tear, others in powerful positions down. At the end of the day, isn't it come down to a need for greed? Isn't it a selfish action? Isn't it a desire to pull others down to a level they feel they're at? Isn't it a desire to create a perception that if I pull others down low enough, it might help me rise? Isn't that an ego move, a greed move? You guys, to me, those that take the approach of tearing down, it's kind of like the story of the bucket of crabs. You guys know crabs in the beach, walk around, claws, pinch, pinch. Well, if you take a bunch of crabs and you throw them in a bucket, you can step back and watch them try to get out. And it's interesting. Crabs will step all over each other and walk on each other. And if there's enough crabs in the bucket, you'll see over time they start to stand on each other in order to get to the top of the bucket. And if there's enough crabs in the bucket, you'll see that the crabs start to stack and climb all over each other. And at some point, you'll watch a crab, right, get to the top of the bucket and his little claw reach out over to the bucket and just enough for his little eye to see freedom, see his friends, see the water, see home. But the second that a crab is about to crawl out of the bucket, another crab will grab that crab and pull them down back in the bucket. It's a crab mentality. Step all over each other and keep each other down so nobody rises. That's how I feel about the energy of destruction or tearing down. It's a crab mentality. It's no better than a bucket of crabs. You guys were meant to be better than a bucket of crabs. Comes from an attitude or a mentality of scarcity, meaning you got to believe it's a net zero game. Do you have to take from another in order for you to have more? Does life really work that way? Guys, in my experience, this is not a net zero game. It's not a scarcity mentality. You don't have to take to get. You don't have to tear down to have. You don't have to destroy to build. Now, the energy of building back up is a totally different energy, right? The energy of building back up isn't an energy of destruction. Building up is an energy around creation. It's around creating new. That's the energy you want to bring to the world. Creating new, building others up, building ideas up, building products up, building companies up, building brands up, building movements up, building solutions up. It's a creation energy. Sure, it can still come from an ego. Ego is not always bad. You can chase significance, but it's not from an ego-slanted greed. It's from an ego-slanted service when you're building up. It's about service to others. It's about contribution. It's about creating something that can actually make an impact beyond just you. At every level, when you build another person up, you are being in service to them. How are you making them feel? The energy you're giving to that person in that moment, in that day. Just in a conversation. let alone putting energy to building new businesses, careers, brands, organizations, leading people so they can become the best versions of themselves. That's a building up energy. That's a selfless, not a selfish, but a selfless approach. And it's not rooted in scarcity, it's rooted in abundance. It's rooted in the understanding, guys, that you don't need to take in order to get. You can create. There's an unlimited well here to pour from. You got to believe that there's room enough in this world for everybody to go accomplish what they want. That's what a building up nature is. So guys, this touches all aspects of our life, their energy we see every single day. And I want to just draw attention to it because so often right now I'm seeing so much energy put into tearing down in terms of building up. But I think what the world needs right now more than ever is energy around building people, building ideas, building companies, building solutions, and our leadership taking on that approach to build up and not just restore, but get our community, get our country, get our world to a place better than it's ever been. And that's not going to come from trying to tear down what's around us, but to build up what has never been around us. And you might be sitting there saying, Blake, well, that's, very altruistic of you, very idealistic of you, but the reality is you got to, dog eat dog, you got to tear down to get ahead, right? Isn't that how people get ahead? Guys, I challenge you to step back and think and look at the long game here. In my experience, I've never seen it. I've never seen somebody that constantly tear down others get to a place where they have happy relationships. I've never seen it. I've never seen people that constantly try to get ahead by tearing down what others have built, tearing down competitors, companies, products. I've never seen a person build something of long-term lasting value just tearing down what others are there. I've never seen a statue erected to a critic. I've never seen a critic become idolized as a disruptor or an innovator or someone that made a massive impact. I've never seen it. Matter of fact, I've only seen professional critics spend their life tearing others down and becoming more angry, full of more hatred, more unhappy. Because it doesn't work. Tearing others down to get ahead might make you feel better in the moment by pulling others down to where you are, but it doesn't get you ahead long term, and ultimately you end up feeling worse about yourself and where you're at because of what you do. Guys, in the long game, building up others, building up ideas, being a leader that builds those up around you. In the long game, guys, that's the only thing that's going to add lasting value. That's the only thing that's going to create something that stands the test of time, create something that's never been done. And you guys put out an energy that's going to come back to you. I was having a conversation earlier with one of my early business mentors, and we kind of danced on this topic, and he called it enlightened greed. Meaning, yeah, you might be doing something because at the end of the day, you want to advance yourself, but it's enlightened. You're doing it in service of others, building others up in contribution. I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago with one of my spiritual mentors, and in a different conversation, but dancing in a similar topic, he said, Blake, the whole point is to be in service. Be in service, and it's okay knowing that the more you put out, the more that's going to come back. The karmic effect, that's how it works. The energy you put out will come back to you. But you don't be in service because of just what you believe will come back to you. You be in service because of what you believe you will do for others. But it's okay to know it will come back to you. So guys, at the end of the day, you can't lose. You can't lose because number one, you're going to feel better about yourself, building others up. Number two, you're going to surround yourself with people, relationships, business ideas, and become a leader that is constantly growing and progressing. And number three, at the end of the day, you're putting something out into the world that is going to come back to you either directly or indirectly in some way. It's impossible not to. So guys, that's a conversation I want to have with you today. I got to get back to my run. One more look at the view. And hey, my challenge to all of you is, hey, let's not be an energy of destruction. Let's use our energy of creation. Let's not focus on tearing down. Let's focus on building up. And let's do that in every aspect of our life, our relationships, our business, our approach to leadership, and inspire others through our example and our action so that they may do the same. Because, hey, at the end of the day, wouldn't the world be just an awesome place if we got rid of everybody focused on tearing each other down and all we did was support, building each other up. Man, that's a place I want to get to. In the meantime, I appreciate all of you. I love our time together. Have a great one. Until next time. Hey guys, one last thing. I'm super excited that this new podcast, Alive by Design, just went live. You see, I designed the show to bring you inspired thoughts and fascinating conversations with the world's most impactful people, to provide transformative principles and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. And I'd love for you to help me spread the word now. Simply subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on this platform right now. So if I've ever given you value, please do me this personal favor and go subscribe now. And if you found today's episode helpful in any way, make sure you share this with at least one friend today. You have the power right now to change someone's day. So send them a text message with a link to alivebydesign.com, or simply copy and paste the link right from this podcast platform. Who's one person you know right now that you want to see succeed, that you want to see grow, that you want to see feel more alive? Shoot them a text with your largest takeaway from today and be a light in their day. And if you were referred here by a friend, make sure you shoot them a text back and say thank you. I'd love to hear from you directly on what you got from today's podcast. So if you're up for it, drop by my Instagram @BlakeMallon and shoot me a DM. And as always, thank you for showing up. I'm grateful for you, and I hope our time together today in some small way helped you feel a little more alive. Until next time.